San Francisco faces off against the Rams this week, and while they've had their number in recent years, in this game, Purdy will be without CMC and Deebo Samuel. Usually losing two of your most talented players would be a death blow for an offense, but with the rise of the modern day beast mode in Jordan Mason, I don't think San Francisco needs CMC or Deebo headed into this game. Not only is Mason second in the league in rushing yards, but he's also doing all the little things right on film. So in this video, I wanted to examine his film alongside other San Francisco stars that will need to step up with both Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel out. But before we get into any of those guys specifically, I would argue that if Kyle Shanahan did a better job of utilizing Mason throughout this Vikings game, he could have won. On the first two drives, for instance, Mason only had one carry. And when Kyle Shanahan did decide to go for it on fourth, which was already a questionable decision, he passed rather than give it to a back who averaged 5 yards a carry this game. And with San Francisco's wide receivers with Deebo Samuel averaging the lowest yards of separation in the entire NFL, Kyle Shanahan needs to rethink this philosophy. Because even when Mason doesn't have the best blocking like on this play, he still is able to turn it into a positive play by dragging these defenders forward. But what's really impressed me the most about Mason is the vision he's been playing with this year. On this 9-yard toss, for instance, Mason is able to get this entire defense flowing in one direction, and once he sees the cutback lane, it's a one-step cut for Mason, and once in open field, you're not going to bring him down with just one guy. On this play, San Francisco is running an inside zone split, which has these offensive linemen stepping up to the play side, and then he also has this tight end coming back across to help kick outside this linebacker, which also helps with cutback lanes. Mason is then pressing this gap to allow his blockers and Pooney to get up to the next level. If Mason just took this and bounced outside immediately, number 0 would have made the tackle on him. And then after pressing this gap, Mason is reading this outside contained man, sees that he needs to cut it back inside, and thanks to this little jump step he is able to, and I love how he's always finishing these runs, as I mentioned, picking up positive yardage. He'll be dragging defenders almost every time. Another play I really like from this Vikings game is this wide zone toss from San Francisco's offense. These linemen are stepping play side and Kittle is kicking out with Kyle Juszczyk as the lead blocker. And once again, what stands out is how hard Mason is pushing this hole. He gets 0 to flow this direction and cuts it back with this crazy hurdle. And Mason is just so special with how hard it is to bring him down. No arm tackle like that will do, and even with 43 wrapped up on him, he carries him for an additional 5 yards probably. And with Mason coming in at 225 pounds, he's the perfect goal line back, regardless of what goal line that is. This size and his running style also helps wear down the defense as the game goes along. And while Mason's rushing dominance has been obvious, I think he's pretty undervalued in the passing game. He's not only a viable checkdown option like he demonstrates on this play with a quick out, but more importantly in gaining the trust of Kyle Shanahan, he showed off great pass protection. Like on this play, Mason is able to identify 51 coming on the blitz, steps up in the hole, meets him, and keeps active throughout this play until driving him into the ground. Outside of Mason, I thought there were also some other standout players on San Francisco's offensive side of the ball that can help them going forward. Starting out with San Francisco's $30 million man in Brandon Ayuk. On the day, he had 4 catches for 43 yards, and while this isn't stellar, it's an improvement over his Week 1 performance. And while he hasn't been the most active in the passing game, his blocks have been crucial, like on this 22-yard Jordan Mason run. Outside of Brandon Ayuk, I expect Jauan Jennings to be called on more often this game. He's not the fastest receiver, but in big-time moments when Purdy needs a completion, he's looking towards Jennings. Like on this 4th and 3 where Purdy delivers a dot to Jennings that he snatches out of the air. Outside of San Francisco's receivers, I think that their tight ends in Kittle and Eric Sauber will play a big role in this Rams game. Not vital to just Purdy's success, but also Mason's on the ground. On this play, for instance, you can see how George Kittle executes the perfect hook block, and in the passing game, he's been a Purdy favorite, most recently having 7 catches for 76 yards and a touchdown versus the Vikings. And while he's always been a great player, what really stands out is how explosive he looks post-core muscle surgery that had him lose nearly 30 pounds of muscle this offseason. On this return route, for instance, you can see how Kittle is able to turn on a dime and get up to speed almost instantly. As far as San Francisco's other tight end went in Eric Sauber, He not only had 2 catches on the day, but like Kittle, also had great blocks in the running game. So going forward, if Kittle needs it, he can be rotated out on blocking downs, and Kyle Juszczyk coming in as a tight end. Speaking of Kyle Juszczyk, it's been nice to see Shanahan actually use his offensive weapon. He's great in the passing game and can often sneak out there. And going forward, with guys like Deebo Samuel out, he needs to be more involved. And there may even be more opportunities for younger players like Jacob Cowing, but ultimately I do think Jordan Mason is going to be a big reason why San Francisco beats the Rams this week. But ultimately, these are just my thoughts, and I want to hear your thoughts down below. It would also mean a ton to me if you could like and subscribe, and as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.